Meeting for July 15th, 2024. We'd like to remind members of the public in the gallery during a standing committee council meeting to adhere to the conduct set forth in the council procedural bylaw displayed near the entrance of council chambers. I'll call the standing committee of council meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Has council had a chance to review the agenda for tonight's meeting? And does administration have anything to add or delete from this agenda?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Sands. We would like to add a closed meeting item, personnel matter under point 17, harmful to personal privacy.
Okay, that will be item 5.1. I'll start with, can I get a motion to accept that agenda as amended?
I'll move to accept the agenda as amended.
All those in favor? That's unanimous. I'll start by reading the land acknowledgement. Blackfalds Town Council acknowledges that we're on Treaty 6 territory, a traditional meeting ground, gathering place, and traveling route to the Cree, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Métis, Dene, and Nakota Sioux. We acknowledge all the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries. Before we start on with our presentations, I just want to make a note that Mayor Hoover isn't joining us in person today, but he is joining us remotely. So moving on to our presentations. 3.1 BMX Supercross track. Welcome. Yeah.
You have to. Thank you, Deputy Mayor and Council, for allowing us to speak tonight or present tonight. Central Alberta BMX Supercross Association would like to positively impact community through BMX racing, building a safe and family-friendly environment for kids to get active and lead healthy lifestyles. BMX racing originated in the 70s in California when children, unable to afford motocross, constructed dirt courses on vacant lots, giving birth to a brand new sport. Since its inclusion in the Olympics in 2008, BMX racing has surged in popularity. According to the Outdoor Recreation Participation Top-Line Report, while participation in road biking has increased by 6.2% and mountain biking by 1.9% over a 5-year span in the US, BMX participation has risen by 43.2% during the same period. Once considered an alternative sport, BMX has become a global phenomenon, with tracks worldwide and major events like the UCI BMX World Championships. What sets BMX apart is its inclusivity across age and gender. From toddlers on pedalless Strider bikes to 77-year-old competitors like Kitty Weston. Everyone can participate in BMX racing, making it a sport for the entire family to enjoy. Despite its growth, BMX lacks significant venues for practice and competition. The USA BMX, the largest BMX racing organization, lists fewer than 400 sanctioned tracks in the US and Canada. BMX appeal lies in accessibility, requiring minimal equipment, and its strong cultural ties seen in rider camaraderie and passion for well-designed tracks alongside distinctive clothing and music. Unlike many sports, BMX ensures active participation for all, emphasizing inclusivity with no one sidelined. A high-quality BMX track not only enhances community engagement, but also generates substantial revenue. For example, the USA BMX World Championship held in Rock Hill, South Carolina, brought in $19.2 million to the local economy in 2017 and just over $26 million in 2024. Exceeding initial projections. This year at the BMX National Canadian Championships held in Dorian, Quebec, it brought $3.8 million to the local economy. To attract riders, quality facilities are crucial. Serious BMX athletes travel widely, similar to golfers seeking diverse challenges. The proposed BMX track in Blackfalds aims to enrich the community while attracting local and global events, benefiting from strategic amenities like easy highway access, ample parking, camping facilities, and proximity to recreational areas and the Abbey Centre. Operated by the Central Alberta BMX Supercross Association, the track promises no financial risk to the town of Blackfalds. Fully funded before we start construction begins, it aims to foster athletic development and potentially nurture future Olympians. We focus on hosting municipal, provincial, and international competitions. The tracks support rider progression and training, complementing existing facilities in Central Alberta. In conclusion, establishing a BMX track in Blackfalds not only enhances the local community, but also aligns with successful models seen in small towns around the globe, fostering international recognition through sports. We also have a short little video that we'd like to play.
Are we just waiting for sound?
Yeah.
There we go.
Sorry.
Okay.
It's Molly Simpson here, and I just wanted to come on here and say a little bit about what it would mean if we had a Supercross track in Blackfalds, Alberta. I basically live in Blackfalds. I'm kind of on the end of Red Deer and Blackfalds there, and I think just having, this world-class facility in Alberta is a game changer. And I think younger riders, will be able to progress and achieve their dreams of maybe becoming an Olympian or competing at the World Cup level, we're world champs. And I think Canada kind of falls short of the BMX facilities, so I think having this will be a game changer for many of us, including myself and other national team athletes and young kids across Alberta.
Blackfalds would be like social opportunities and conventions, nationals, worlds possibly. Could let new riders come, try it out. If there was a world level track in Blackfalds, maybe someone started to train, race, meet people, have fun, it'd just be a better all around experience. If there was a track in Blackfalds, it would be like right next to my house.
So yeah, I'm really hoping that this project will pull through and it's really exciting and definitely have a smile on my face just thinking about it. And yeah, it would mean a lot to me and the BMX community of Alberta.
That is our presentation.
Super. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. Does council have any questions or comments at this time? No, I like how you have it laid out there. It looks really, really nice. There are some questions that I do have about it, but I think we're going to talk in the business items a little bit more about that.
For sure.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. And we have a second presentation tonight. It's the Optimist Club, I believe. Disc golf course. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Bob McMillan representing the Optimist Club of Blackfalds. So I think I'll zoom in on this a bit. So we have been working on this disc golf course for a while. I believe we have kind of a letter of agreement that at some point we're going to get one put in somewhere within Blackfalds. So most of this presentation and discussion is really focused around where. Our original location or desired location or prospective location was Centennial Park. And just as that got looked at, this spring, it kind of became obvious that there was a little too much wildlife there, and it was quite wet. So we have two locations that are currently under consideration. The first one being what we're calling the multi-park location. So consisting of, I don't know the name of this park that's got the baseball diamond in it. But with 4 holes placed there, and then a short walk over to this park off Westridge with the pond, and a couple holes there, and then a little bit longer walk into the backside of the community. It's not called the community hall, is it? Sorry? Community center. There we go. With a couple holes there too, including potentially this longer one, or all of this is obviously somewhat, it's been looked at a few times, but everything is somewhat movable. The baskets can be installed in a way that is fairly, well, they can be installed in a couple different ways, but to start with, I think we'd be putting them in the locations we think would make sense in a more temporary way, and then eventually moving to a more permanent concrete installation. And the starting zones, the tee boxes are generally just markers, so that people go and then you put the course on the disc golf, I don't know if it's association, there's a website essentially that all the disc golf courses tend to be placed on that allows you to see it. So, and then the second location that's been put forward is, sorry, what am I looking for? You know, I use this all the time and it usually is so easy. Is Sterling Park. So starting at just behind the Wadey House, going across this section, I actually think, you know, having looked at this just last night, we'd probably move this tee box somewhere into this area and then go across this to avoid the picnic tables that are right here and right there. Hole 2 comes back from that towards the Santa dump. And hole 3 along the back of the campsites between, I'm not sure what the actual 2 ball diamonds are there for number wise, but between these 2 ball diamonds that go along the campsites. And then another hole after that from approximately the area by the electrical junction box that has the concrete there over towards Leon Road behind these trees likely to give a little bit of extra challenge. Then one from on the other side of the path that goes across Leon Road straight north towards Duncan Avenue, Duncan Street. It says on the next one, oh, Duncan Avenue. Then another hole that goes through there, working around these trees, down towards the parking lot. And then hole 7 actually goes just short of the parking lot, just to the east side of it, back towards the ball diamond. And then you would go through, actually, I don't know if it shows it very well here, but you kind of go through this path here, past the concession, over to the far side of the playground, and then kind of have to work around these trees, probably place it actually over here. So you kind of come out and then come back. And then the very last hole along the back of the ball diamond. And we'd probably start that probably even started on this edge over here, and then work it with the trees. And then people would then walk back along the back of the ball diamond to either where their cars are, or they would just go back the other way. So there are obviously some pros and cons to both. Pros and cons to both tracks. Oh, yeah, I'm wrong color today. The pros, I think, to the 4-park location is it makes it very accessible to a few different people. It's very close to the Abbey Center, where a lot of people already go, giving you lots of parking, as well as washrooms that are available much of the day. What else? The other thing about that, and I've got a few pictures if you want to see, don't necessarily have them all, but with those locations, you can see there's some elevation and some variation within the holes. That would probably be the biggest pro and why I think the disc golf people started looking there. I don't have every hole on here. These are just the last couple. I will say typically in the park there, in the park with the baseball diamond on the multi-park proposal, you tend to be down in the park. As you know, that park kind of has a path that's elevated, and then the fences start a few yards past that path already. The holes would be all on the inside of the path towards the baseball diamond, allowing a fairly big buffer between the holes and, the baskets and people's houses. The Westview area, the Westridge Road Park, that also tends to slope very much down towards the pond, and it would all be quite a ways away from other people's houses, either by the fact that there's that back alley there, or just with the placement of where the holes and the starting points are. They are quite a ways away from any houses with the perspective layout we've put together. The only downside is potentially going across the paths, but in talking with the Disc Golf Association, most disc golfers are very aware of walkers and other people around, and usually it's not a problem for both to coexist relatively peacefully. So then looking at the Sterling Park one, and I'll just kind of flip through these. The only downside to that one, I guess there's pros. It definitely has the space. It's not interfering with anyone's houses. And I think we could set up a layout that would be fairly family friendly and a good beginner course. The downsides, as you can kind of see from the pictures, it's fairly flat. There are some trees to work with. So in that sense, there's that. The other thing is the amenities there aren't always open. There is lots of parking, whether it be at the Wadey Center or the Sterling Park parking lot. And what else can I say about that? Let's see if the notes here had anything else. Diamond 5 is not very busy. Yeah, and I think both are looking at spots that don't have, there's a lot of things that go on around them. But both parks also, we're putting it in places in the parks that aren't highly used, right? So it's space that's seems kind of available and doesn't seem all that busy. With the exception of, you could see in the pictures that I had, some people do like to put their camp setups quite a ways back towards that fence. It's we'd be looking at that hole going right through this area here. So, but then again, the campers would also have something else fun to do. I think, I guess the other con for the Four Parks location is the crossing roads would need to be marked, which does have a bit of a challenge for people who aren't familiar with the layout of the town, and possibly needing some extra signage there. And yeah. And then we had been looking at a few other locations, but I don't think they've really been under that much consideration anymore, as the parks there aren't really built. For the east side, I think there's a talk of potentially putting one down there eventually as some new parks come together and the space kind of looks like it could accommodate something like those kind of parks down near the current schools, and then the Soper natural area. But the downside of that is it's just very heavily treed and would probably require a fair bit of landscaping to put a disc golf course in there. And from the Optimist Club perspective, we hadn't budgeted for that. So that's one of the reasons why we haven't done a lot of work looking into it, just because it's really kind of outside of the scope of what was originally discussed. Any questions?
Councillor Slot.
I just have a comment.
Okay.
I said on the record, Sterling Industries wasn't part of the information from last time, I believe.
Right.
I'm glad that you brought this forward, because I do think it's the best location for this. I do know from the east side, there was lots of concerns and stuff that the public that sit on the rec board, as well as us, felt like there's just no way that it could go over there. But they did do due diligence, and with Silvers being Lacombe County, we would have to talk to Lacombe County as well, so it's not part of Blackfalds. So I do appreciate that this other option has been brought up now, so thank you.
Just wondered if we could get Mayor Hoover back up.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he has any input on this, but there we go. Okay, does the council have any other questions or comments? Councilor Bell?
Thank you. Thank you. I just have one question. So the Optimist Club already has already purchased the baskets, correct?
Yes.
And how many do you have in total?
9.
9. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very
Thank
much. Moving on to our business items. Business item 4.1, request for decision, Central Alberta BMX Supercross track proposal.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and Council. So yeah, we met with Rich and Marty here in December of 2023. That's when they proposed originally the thought of having a BMX Supercross track in Blackfalds. So our initial thoughts were, well, what would this look like? So from that point, they developed a preliminary design, which you've seen tonight. And of course, the location being southeast of Duncan Ave and Vista Trail. So I guess I'm here if you have any questions for myself or for Rich or Marty. And if not, then we'd be looking to bring this back to council at a future council meeting.
Okay, council, Councilor Coulter.
Thank you for the presentation. It is a wonderful presentation. I'm excited for it, but I have a major question that's been a major thing in regards to a lot of facilities we brought into town, and that is in regards to the parking. That's putting a lot of stuff over at Sterling and at the school, and so have we thought about extra parking and where it can go? Because if by chance we have people at the BMX track, let's say we had a football game going, baseball game, and if we put the disc out there as well, it's a lot of vehicles, then we don't have a lot of parking for.
So if you're talking for major events at the Supercross track, or are you talking for just regular use?
Just regular use. I mean, like there was a tournament there this past weekend, and all the parking, Wadey Center at the school, at the Sterling Park, and the campers, it was all full.
Yeah.
So I'm just concerned that we're gonna run into a major problem with people parking on Vista Trail.
Right.
Right? So I'm just wondering, do we have some kind of a idea where we can have more parking developed for this area?
There is potential for, if you go back to the plans, just southeast of where the proposed track would be, there is a small soccer field that was placed in there, but there could be additional parking there. But other than that, no, there's no additional parking. So we would just be using basically Duncan Avenue, potentially the school if there's nothing going on there, and the Sterling Industries Park parking, and potentially the campground as well. Those would be the 4, and I guess Wadey Center. So that'd be 5 areas.
Kind of doesn't answer, kind of doesn't answer the fact of if we have something going on, even if we have a baseball tournament at the same time as BMX, there's not enough parking there.
Yeah, we have no other proposed parking. Is that what you asked?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no other proposed parking, but there could be an option southeast of where the current design of the proposed track is. There could be potential for more parking stalls there. Other than that, we just have what we already have.
Councilor Swab?
If yeah, mine was on parking too. Could we not open the town facility that's close by for parking, because there's a lot of gravel space there, and it wouldn't be far for them to walk if we needed the parking.
Yeah, if there was a major event, I think that's when we would probably look at doing something like that. If we were hosting a major event at the BMX park, for example, at the BMX track.
And if it is something that we could do, are you able to provide when it comes back to council, how many parking stalls that would give us as well?
Yeah, for sure.
And then my other question is, there's a lot of soccer kids in our community. Where are we moving all the soccer fields to? And I know we're gonna keep some there, but it grows every year. So where are we putting the soccer fields so that all of our kids can still participate in that sport?
Yeah, so the football field that we're currently building is football and soccer, not just football. And then just adjacent to it, to the west, is another parcel for a smaller soccer field. So that would basically cover the two that we're losing. But then we also have another spot in between Vista Trail and Westbrook Road that that's a full soccer field there too.
So the football field, would it open up 2 soccer fields potentially, since they're little kids, or?
Oh yeah, they could play sideways, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Usually they play that on the smaller field though.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks.
Anyone else? Councillor Dennis?
Has there been any other options looking at it to put it somewhere else other than there? Because removing soccer fields and then replacing them is not financially efficient, I don't think. I think it'd be better to find a nice spot for this nice facility that they're proposing, but at a different location.
Is there a location that you had in mind? We didn't have another location in mind when we looked through our plans, and this was the location.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what is available, but we jam things up so much, and we're already having a parking issue across the street here. And I definitely don't want to see another parking issue. Passing it down to the next council or whatever. I think we really need to look at where to put that and keep facilities that we already have there instead of replacing them. That's gonna cost us money. And I think we have to watch our money. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree with all the comments and the concerns here. I just was wondering, with this BMX track, if it were to go through, what kind of competitions are we seeing and how often are these coming in? Are these on the weekends? Are these in the evenings? Is this a week in the summer? That type of thing. How often do we know, or do they know?
I will let Rich and Marty answer that, because they're more,
Yeah.
they attend these things on a regular basis, so.
Yeah, he looks like a bike rider.
So to address your question about the events, so we would start off just holding district races, which would be on call it Tuesdays and Thursdays. We haven't actually come up with a schedule yet because we don't have a track. But district races would be Tuesdays and Thursdays. Then we have to apply for a provincial, which is the Alberta BMX Association. That happens every year in October. They have an annual general meeting, which each club comes with a proposal saying that they want to hold a provincial event. The provincial event only happens on weekends. And what we've done in the past with other BMX associations is that we've met with the soccer association, the baseball associations, to make sure we're not doubling up on that weekend. So we're not having a baseball event with a provincial event, because our provincials are big. Their provincial racing is roughly about 600 to 700 riders, and they're anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 spectators. So they're big events. So that's why we make sure that we meet with the soccer association, we meet with softball or baseball to make sure that they're not going to have, say, a provincial, what you just had here, where you had a big softball tournament or baseball tournament, and then have 2 major events happening at the same time, because it just won't work. And then everybody gets frustrated. So we do our due diligence to make sure that we don't double book anything. The other events that we would be planning to get after a provincial would be a national event, the Canadian BMX Nationals. They happen every 2 years out west and then every 2 years out east. So they basically alternate between each side of the country. They just finished the last 2 years out east, so now they're moving back to west. St. Albert has just been awarded, we actually just found out today, so they're well in advance, they're about a year in advance, that a national event is going to be held in St. Albert next year, next August. It's August 24th and 25th. Now, a world event is what this track is being designed for. So basically to hold a BMX World Championship or a World Cup. Those you have to apply 5 years in advance. So it's kind of like an Olympic Games. They're very big events. They bring anywhere from 3,200 to 4,700 riders from around the world. Canada, last time Canada actually held a world event was back in 1994. So it's been a significant amount of time. The US has held, I think, 5 or 6, and then they go else globally. Like next year, I think it's in Belgium, and then the next year after that, it's in Australia. So we know well in advance that this is going to be a major event. And if we were going after a world event, we would need city council or the city participation so that the planning happens. Because we can't just plan on our own. We want to make sure that roads, that the traffic's going to be dealt with. We have to meet with business owners within the town to make sure that they can take on that many participants. So there's a lot of planning that goes into a world event. But the provincials, Red Deer has one this year. They're actually having a Canada Cup. It should be happening next month in August. And it does require planning. Not gonna lie, there is parking issues at most provincials. We do handle the parking with either transportation, like buses. We usually look for off-site parking where we can. The nice thing about this facility is actually out of all the BMX tracks in all of Alberta and BC, has the most amount of parking within 100 meters of the track. Most tracks, if you've ever been to the Red Deer BMX track, it's right down at the boat launch. We have 30 stalls. Well, yeah, we have packed in over 200 cars down there, but that takes planning. So something like this, like on a district night, we would probably have anywhere from 50 to 70 vehicles. Right. So we would have to, if we knew that baseball was going to be on Tuesdays, well, we wouldn't try and schedule it be like the district race night on Tuesdays because we know that there's going to be a conflict with parking. We would maybe do it on a Monday or a Wednesday. District race nights always happen weekdays, and provincials always happen Friday, Saturday, Sunday. A national event is basically Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and a world event is 2 weeks. So it's quite a schedule.
A lot of people to go through.
Yeah.
International. Okay. Yeah, I know. I think us, along with many of the residents who have seen and looked into this a little bit, has had similar concerns with parking. That's a nice expensive piece of land that we could, multiple things we could do with that. But this is a great idea. It's just like those concerns of parking, moving the soccer pitches. We'll have to, relocate some of this. That's going to be a town expense to do these types of things. So I think a lot of the details are worth looking into. That's my personal view anyway.
And the soccer pitches that are currently right there now could actually remain.
They're going to remain.
They can remain. The only reason why we were showing an additional ball diamond, it was just at a request from the city. So that's why it's shown on our plan. But the current soccer fields, the way that the track is positioned, those current soccer fields could remain as is.
Okay, that's good to know.
And with the parking issue, last year at Glasgow for the World Championship, we actually took a train from our Airbnb to a bus station, from the bus station to the track. That's how the parking was. So it's one of those things with the right logistics, anything can be done. There is a lot of parking even at the industrial areas that if you can talk to some of those landowners, most of the times they're not open on the weekends, which is when we have our big events.
Right. Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor Hoover. Can't hear you. Can't hear you still.
Can't see you either.
Can't see you.
Did somehow I get disabled when the video played?
There you go.
You can hear me now?
Yeah.
Can't see you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, my first comment was that one of my questions was partially answered with, just in the last few moments there, with regards to the soccer pitches. If I'm understanding it correctly, this proposal is showing a ball diamond that is just potential, but that isn't necessarily the case. Correct me if I'm wrong. That said, if there was not enough support for this park to be located here, if there was a desire to look at another location, it sounds like the goal is to have this a world-class facility to host nationals and international events. What infrastructure that exists in this design would need to go along with this if we were looking at another site that didn't have the bathrooms, the parking, etc.? What's the necessary infrastructure in order to go for those larger events?
The big thing is just washroom facilities. So basically just having water at the track, but basically washroom facilities for even for Worlds can be done with porta potties. I know it sounds really odd, but we just did South Carolina, a very large event, and that was all done with porta potties. So we need very little infrastructure.
So it's not, a requirement to have paved parking lots, et cetera. You can potentially have gravel parking lots or grass parking.
Correct, yes. Most municipalities that we run into don't allow us to do grass parking just because of all the oil that drips off the vehicles.
Okay.
That's one thing that we've run into in the past.
Okay, thank you. And then further to that, if I might, this would be more for our administration. If we were to consider parking where the small soccer field is located, what would be our option to replace that field? I think I was hearing that the football field would be multi-use. Did I also hear that there's space for one potentially to the north of that?
Yeah, so directly north of the proposed Supercross track would be where the smaller soccer field would go in the retention pond, the dry pond, sorry. And then there's actually a third soccer field that's supposed to go in between Vista and Westbrook. And the potential for the potential for two more north of the junior school that we would have to talk with Wolf Creek about, but that was as per our All-Star Park plan in 2014 or 15 that was done.
Okay, and I know it's a big ask here, and it would be more of an anecdotal question. Do we know what the typical costs would be to put a field in, especially these smaller ones?
So the fields are ready to go. It's just a matter of putting the net in. So the posts, which would be a few $1,000s for each field.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, if we did not put in this additional ball diamond, we could maintain the large soccer field, the small soccer field would likely, the use of that could be moved to what's already being considered at a couple other locations. In fact, it sounds like there'd be multiple small fields that would potentially replace the use of this small field, if I'm understanding correctly.
Yeah, right now, like we have it in the budget in the future budget to have another ball diamond, just because we are running short on ball diamond use in the town. Soccer field use, on the other hand, is not. That's why we haven't developed that other soccer field yet, because it's not in high demand yet, but it could be in the future.
Okay, so if I'm clear, we're looking at already 3 small soccer fields just to the north of the football field, or to the west and north. And I know again, it's a big aspect. We know approximately what the cost to, if we were to put parking where this small field is located, and how many spots we might get, or has that even been considered?
We haven't considered that yet, because we need to see if this would be considered first.
Okay. I think from my perspective, I'm seeing that having information like that would go a long ways in terms of answering some of the concerns over this location. That seems to be thus the lack or the disruption in the soccer programs or an issue, and the lack of parking for this facility if we had something else in there. So it would be, in my perspective, an important thing to look at if we have the ability to do that.
Yeah, we can do that.
Thank you.
Councillor Spot.
I just have a comment, and if nobody else wants to speak after that, I can give the administrative recommendation. So my comment is, I love that Molly and Jaden participated in the video. I think it was very well done. I also really enjoyed the son of the guy that didn't come up tonight to speak. When he came to rec board and he spoke, he was very nervous. But when you see these kids and how much they love their sport, why wouldn't we open up Blackfalds to be the Central Alberta hub for this sport? It's going to bring tourism, more businesses. We already have businesses. We have that one big business park out there that has 10 bays that isn't full yet. We could have a lot more businesses in our community. If the soccer fields aren't being taken away, we still have our soccer fields. We have a group of guys that have ideas, and they have layouts for how this works, because they've done this for years with transportation and getting people to those events. And it doesn't sound like they're Tuesday and Thursday nights. There's a lot of parking being used. And if they're willing to work with our clubs, it makes sense to do this. It makes sense to bring this back for more information and to start working to see if this is something our community wants. Another thing I was going to suggest is the YouTube video that was played tonight. If we could have that on our website, even the timestamp on the standing committee meeting, I think that they'll have a lot of hits from our community, and I think that they'll get the excitement that these kids and their families that live in our community and surrounding area, they can see what these kids are, like how they are enjoying their sport and their families. And it's going to bring more conversations to the table. We'll probably have more emails coming to our council emails, but the sky's the limit. If this is what needs to come to Central Alberta, why not Blackfalds?
Yeah, no, and I'll agree. I agree with that. And I also agree with Mayor Hoover about, digging a little bit more into some of these things, because it's well worth it, I feel, also. It's just all the smaller details that might add up in the future, we really have to pay attention to, but fully support it. Yeah, for sure. And I think we owe it to look more into it.
So I'm going to move the administrative recommendation that Standing Committee of Council receive the Central Alberta BMX Supercross delegation presentation as information, and further that this item be brought back to future council meeting.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor,
Yes,
I would like to make an amending motion.
okay,
I'd like to make an amending motion that the administration brings us back to a standing committee with the additional information that has been discussed about future soccer fields and the costs of adding additional parking where this home field is.
okay, thank you. So how do we do this? Are you okay with that? Bringing it back to a standing committee?
How long of a process, like, does this need to be dealt with sooner than later? Do we have a standing committee in August? Yeah. So is it okay to leave it that late?
Yeah, I think so.
that's fine.
Okay, so what do we need to do here as far as,
If Councillor Bob is okay with that amendment, then we're good with that, we'll adjust it.
Okay.
okay, so going with that motion, is there any debate or discussion on that motion? Councillor Dennis?
Sorry, I'd like to see parking, how many stalls are available right now.
Okay.
Without the additional parking.
Including the street parking on Duncan kind of thing? Okay.
Please. Thank you.
Thank you. So I see nobody else, so I'll call the question, all in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you. Okay, moving on to business item 4.2, request for direction, Optimist Club of Blackfalds disc golf course proposal.
Yeah, so as was mentioned in the presentation, we've been working with finding a location for the Optimist Club disc golf course. And baskets, of course, already been ordered and are sitting at the operations center. I guess just if council had any more questions regarding what was proposed tonight, just fire away and then hopefully we can get some answers for you.
Okay, does council have any questions or comments? Councillor Coulter?
I just have a comment, sort of question, in regards to the two presentations and the locations. As Councillor Schwab had said, I'm very happy that they came back with a different location, away from people's backyards. And I'd be excited to see this finally come around. But yeah, no, and I just wanted to comment that I'm glad that that did happen.
Thank you. Councillor Schwab. Sorry, Councillor Schwab.
Thank you. Through the chair to the director and to the presenter. So thank you for bringing this forward to council. I do appreciate the changes that were made to the initial presentation, the multi-park presentation as it were, to reduce the number of homes that are affected. That was certainly an issue that was brought up at the rec board meeting the first few times we saw the proposed routes. I'm still a little weary of promoting, when this was first brought to us, part of it was that there's disc golf tourism and it would be bringing people to our community and the routes would be, listed on their website and on the disc golf app, etc. I'm still a little weary of promoting people to come to town and walk through back alleys and roadways. It doesn't seem like it would bring a lot of tourism having to do that. That part honestly still confuses me. I was happy to see a second option. I don't think that Sterling Park is a great idea. Just it's a location where we already have a lot of projectiles, and I don't think, as we're looking forward into potential campground redevelopment in that area, I don't know that that's necessarily a great fit. I think that if there are people camping there, you know, the multi-park option might be close enough where they could, you know, go down the street to do that. So I don't really know that additional projectiles in that area are a great idea. Just one other comment. We've been speaking a lot over the last number of years about amenities on the east side of town. We've discussed a lot of different ideas, but with that comes the actual location for this. We don't really have, you know, in our current developed land areas that are identified, we don't really have a large park type area on the east side of town. So my only, I guess, real request would be that, you know, as a council and administration, we take a look at the future land development on the east side, because as we know, this now Sterling All-Star Park development area has just, it's really good. And things have really changed since the last plan that we did in 2013, 2014, whatever it was. So to think that, you know, if we are a recreation and sports hub in our area, then we need to seriously look at having a facility where we can have these sorts of things on the east side of town as well, because as it is, we're just continuing to grow. And I know that's off the path of disc golf where I started this, but I like the idea of this. I would be open to trying it out in the multi-park layout to see how it goes. We know that the baskets and the tee boxes can be moved, and if we find that we're having you know, complaints from residents, or if we have a better site that we can move them to in the future, that it could be moved, I'm certainly open to that. I just, again, the concern with that is how much of the cost of setting this up and then moving it is on the town, right? We know that this group has purchased the baskets, but to do the, you know, do line locating before they can dig, all of those things, that all takes our staff time. So that needs to be a consideration when we're allowing projects like this as well.
Thank you. Councillor Spaulding.
So these baskets, I believe, have been sitting for about 2 years, waiting to get put into the ground. Will we get them into the ground this summer? Will this be coming back sooner than later?
I guess that's up for you guys to decide.
It would be nice so that we can actually use them this year.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have questions or comments?
Deputy Mayor.
Go ahead, Mayor Hoover.
Thank you. Councillor Pell actually said a lot of what was on my mind. I think firstly, I will say I'm not in favor of Sterling Industries Park. I think, especially since we're looking at a large facility potentially in there, I think we've crammed enough into that area. I do know that there are residents that have indicated to me that they're a little dismayed that there's so much consideration for facilities on the west side of town, not much on the east side, as Councillor Pell pointed out. I think it would be a disservice to our residents to not look closely at a variety of different configurations on that side. I know that some of that area is still future development, and obviously that would change things, but there is a significant amount of space. And I live in that area, I walk in that area. And again, I don't know all the requirements, but I think there are potential areas to consider for that. And I think depending on the cost, I would be open to a temporary use of this. And if as Councillor Pell pointed out, that the and I didn't see the plans, I just listened and I tried to imagine it. I think that will be sent to me later. I tried to imagine what it would look like if it's not a significant cost to set it up and promote it, then it's worth seeing with interest. But I think in my perspective, I would like to see more consideration for east of Highway 2A for this type of facility, since there is not very many options. And I think there is a perception from our residents that there's not enough focus on that side of town. Thank you.
Want me to address that a little bit? Go for it.
Thank you, Mayor
Yeah.
Holder.
Just wanted to address that a little bit. We did take a look at a lot of areas on the east side of town. The obvious first choice was Centennial Park. But when we did our play testing there, some of the ground gets quite boggy, quite marshy, and just the amount of geese, right? That's the main wildlife there. And being, I believe, a protected species too, it didn't seem like it was going to be appropriate to have a disc golf course there. Looking at the various other parks there, like when we looked at this multi-park layout where we have the 3 different parks, and originally it was 4 even, finding something similar to that on the east side was also considered, but it kind of required the holes to go along some fairly narrow paths in between, either with houses on one side or houses on both sides of the path. And just the concern of discs going into people's yards was kind of disqualified any of the options we really looked at. And then the third thing that was brought forward, I don't know, like by the rec committee or administration, was that in potential future development, it could be looked at as leaving an area for an additional disc golf course on that side of town, which seemed very reasonable. And I guess the second thought on that was to get something in, see that the amount of use it gets would be kind of the first step. So.
Thank you. Okay, is there any other?
If I might make just a further to that, I would agree with you. Centennial Park is not a good area for that. I wouldn't support that. I don't think it's wide enough open, and you're correct. Amount of wildlife in there, trail use in there, I don't think it would be practical. I have some thoughts in terms of Cedar Park and along Cover. And again, I'd have to look at the map more closely, but I appreciate that you look. But again, from my perspective, I know that it's been one of those projects that has been sitting, waiting for a while. And again, this is my opinion. I would rather see it sit for longer and put more consideration into the east side. But thank you for your input.
Okay. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Councillor Slough.
When this comes back, can you put in all the east side information? Because there's a lot that was missed, and I think that would be a lot better for us to make the right decision for this.
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you. Okay, we do have an administrative recommendation. Does anyone care to make that motion? Councillor Appel.
Thank you. I, the Standing Committee of Council, received the Optimist Club of Blackfalds delegation presentation as information, and further that this item be brought back with additional requested information to a future regular council meeting.
Thank you. Any questions or debate on that motion? Okay. All those in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to business item 4.3, request for direction urban and pilot program. 1 year check-in.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor Sands, members of council. Earlier this year, we had a delegation that came to council expressing their desire to have urban hens in their backyard. And earlier this year, council directed us to go out and do a survey to do another check-in from the 2019 survey we did where our community was split. These survey results really showed that the town of Blackfalds residents were really in favor of the Urban Hens pilot program. So council did direct administration to draft up some draft regulations and do our open house and all that kind of fun. Sorry, we didn't do the open house on that one. I'm getting the two confused with front parking path. My apologies, getting ahead of myself. But anyways, back to the report here. So we were directed to do a 2-year pilot program bylaw for the urban hens that included. The highlights are that it was only in effect for 2 years, effective July 11th, 2023. And the licenses expire they start on the 11th and they expire on the 10th of the following year. So it's only valid for that 1 year. So people have to be coming back now. The annual application fees are $70 and not prorated. We have a complete prohibition on roosters. We have a maximum coop size and minimum coop area per hen consistent with research municipalities. We put in some appeal provisions if there's any issues that the applicant felt that their application wasn't heard fairly. There's provisions to ensure that the hen's basic health and well-being are looked after. There's a prohibition on selling eggs or meat, slaughtering the hens on property, and keeping hens on anything other than a coop. And there's municipal enforcement mechanisms and general penalties for contravening the bylaw have been built into it as well. Now that the pilot program's first year has come to a close, we'd like to share how the program has come along so far and what kind of information we've been providing urban hen tenders, chicken tenders. I had to. Yeah, so we just wanted, and we also have some public engagement that we're proposing as well to kind of get ahead because this bylaw does expire, so it does end in July 2025, so we want to get ahead of that. So to date, in my report, I say that we have 4 hen licenses. We actually have 5 because as soon as I hit print, another one came in. So, and everyone who has submitted an application has received approval. They've all been providing all the information required. And we provide them with a cover letter along with their license that explains, gives them the highlights of what I just shared with you. And we also ask them to provide comments on how the program is going along, because of course we want to hear firsthand from the urban hen license holders how that's going for them. On the back side of the urban hen license, I've also provided copies in the attachments to the report. The backside of the urban hen license, it goes into all the terms and conditions that they must adhere to, what kind of coop requirements there are, how they dispose of waste, and that sort of stuff. And throughout the whole program, we haven't received any comments from license holders. We did receive two emails about the program since it was started. One is from a local veterinarian asking if there's anything they can do to assist with the program and suggest they could offer a short course for those who are interested in having urban hens but have no experience. We also received another email from the extension coordinator with Alberta Farm Animal Care, who advised of their 3-hour urban hen training program that some municipalities are using as part of their licensing requirements. They also offer bylaw officer training, so they are prepared to respond appropriately to calls about urban hens. Copies of these emails have been provided in your report as well. At this time, administration is not recommending any changes to the bylaw because, again, this is just a temporary one that we've got 1 year left in. However, this is requiring training and that sort of stuff is something that council may want to explore when this item comes back in July 2025. We can discuss that at a later date. So with this first round of urban hen licenses about to expire, we did send out reminder letters to the license holders, letting them know that they need to reapply, that their license does in fact expire. And we provided a copy of the letter in the report as well, because again, we once again tried to solicit comments from license holders. To date, we haven't received any. Given that the urban hen bylaw does expire next July, we want to avoid having a gap between when the temporary bylaw expires and when the new one comes in force, because we are dealing with living beings here. So to avoid any gap, administration is proposing that public engagement about the program occurs in this fall/winter with a survey out to the public. The results of the survey would be shared at a future council meeting along with any proposed amendments stemming from the engagement process to the urban hen bylaw when it comes back, should that be something you want to see permanently installed. So there's no financial implications. I should also note to date, we haven't received any complaints from adjacent landowners. So in our opinion, it seems to be working fairly well. As such, the administrative recommendation before you is that the Standing Committee of Council consider the following motion, that the Standing Committee of Council recommends to Council to direct administration to conduct public engagement pertaining to the Urban Hens pilot program and report the findings back to Council for considerations. I'm happy to answer any questions.
council. Does council have any questions or comments? Councillor Appel?
Thank you. Through the chair to Manager Campbell, I only have 2 questions. One you might kind of already answered. So there were 4 applications, so I can assume that all 4 of those have reapplied plus the 1 additional to get us to 5 applications for this next year?
I believe we have one more that needs to do a renewal, and we'll be following up with that individual shortly.
Okay, thank you. And then my secondary question is just regarding that course, the Urban Hen course. Is that something that's only available to people through their municipality, or is it information that we can just pass along to potential chicken tenders, as you said? It's just too good. That we can, let them know that there's this training out there. I think if we're having complaints and issues and especially complaints regarding animal welfare, that might be something to look at in the future about requiring. But as we haven't had any, I don't think it's something we need right now. But yeah, if it's available that the actual individuals can go to this group, the Alberta Farm Animal Care, and take that training themselves, I think we can certainly let them know it's available, but I don't know that we need to take on any of that cost as a municipality to be able to offer it.
For sure. Through the chair to Councillor Appel, we're happy to put that information. We do have a section on urban hens. We can put that under there, because you're right, this 3-hour program is open to anyone. The other one that was offered by the local veterinarian would be something that we'd have to set up with them, but the Alberta Farm Care Association does have that 3-hour course, so we'll get that up online.
Thank you. Mayor Hoover?
Thank you. Now, I heard correctly, like you answered already, there's been no enforcement or complaints from this pilot program. So I'm just wondering what the rationality is to have a public engagement on this when there hasn't been any issue. I know that our administration is quite busy. Just wonder why we just don't bring this back for a permanent bylaw next year. What would be the rationality of public engagement at this point?
That's a good point. There may be new residents who have moved into town that aren't aware of this. This survey can be used to spread awareness of it. That's really the only real rationale. Or maybe there is some concerns out there and they haven't felt comfortable because it is neighbor versus neighbor. If there is a concern happening, they may not feel comfortable going and making a complaint in this survey. It provides an anonymous opportunity to do so. Those are really the only 2 rationales, but if the Standing Committee of Council is comfortable moving forward, the recommendation is before you, but we definitely can do an alternative one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dennis?
I think it is good to have public engagement because it is a pilot project. And that's why we did it as a pilot project. So I think we do need this feedback from people. Thank you.
I agree with Councillor Dennis. Although I do agree with Mayor Hoover, there doesn't seem to be very many problems. Everything's just chicken Louie, so. But I do think that we do need to give the opportunity for the public to engage with us on these things. So if there's no other questions or comments. So, sorry, Mayor Hoover?
Yeah, sorry, just one of the reasons why I asked that is, administration, please clarify, if this does come back, if we didn't do public engagement, this is coming back to be a full bylaw or integrated into animal control, does require public hearing, am I correct?
Through Deputy Chair, no, this is not a planning bylaw. So it is my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that only planning bylaws require a public hearing between first and second reading.
Okay, that makes more sense, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we do have an administrative recommendation. Anyone cares to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Mayor Hoover?
I'll make the motion. The Standing Committee of Council recommends the Council to direct administration to conduct public engagement pertaining to the Urban Hens pilot program and report the findings back to Council for consideration.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on that motion? All those in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to business item 4.4. The request for direction, the cemetery bylaw.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and Council. So yeah, this cemetery bylaw hasn't been reviewed since 2014, so it's definitely due for a review. We did some rate comparisons with our neighboring communities and saw that our rates were pretty low. We did make some notable changes proposing some notable changes, including adding a perpetual care fee to cover or help recover costs of maintaining the cemetery grounds. And then, of course, like I mentioned, rate increases basically across all areas. Significant increases have been made to the columbarium niche rates. So with that, just here to answer any questions, comments, and receive some direction.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Councilor Dennis?
I just want to check to see if I have a conflict of interest, because I do have more relatives out there than I do in town.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I have quite a few concerns. We don't have the old bylaw in front of us. We just have the new current one, so I'm not too sure what has changed in it.
Okay.
And then it had different sizes of plots for cremated remains in different areas. When Cody passed away, we purchased a plot and put a headstone on, and we were gonna bury his ashes later on, or when Dale and I are gone, so that Carla has a spot for him. I just wondered what happens with the smaller plots. You can have 3.
Yeah.
There's no notation on the bigger plot of how
Okay.
many.
Okay.
And then it talks about rock coverage on some of the graves, and only having granite. There is some headstones out there that are rock that are engraved. Is that all gonna stay there? Or is-
We can't do anything.
Yeah.
So anything that's existing will stay?
Yeah.
And for the additional $100 fee for upkeep, I kind of have a problem with that, because we're kind of preying on people that are vulnerable at the time of a death. We don't extra charge $100 for people that come into the RV trailer dump to look after that cost, or use the skateboard park or anything else. Like the cemetery probably has less wear and tear than a lot of our other parks. I think it's a park itself. That's my feeling on it. That's all right now. But I would have liked to have seen the old
Yeah.
bylaw, just so that you see what the changes were.
It is on our website, but I should have included it as well. Yes.
Usually we have both
Yeah.
in our package. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Appel.
Thank you. I did have a couple of questions. Councillor Dennis asked a lot of the ones that I had as well. So regarding the perpetual fee, I'm assuming that it's a one-time cost.
Yes.
Okay, so it would be helpful if maybe that was in the definition saying it's one time, or even on the rate fee, just with the word perpetual in there, it's like, is this a monthly fee, is it a yearly fee, what, you know. Also, it mentions grave liners are required. Would that be an additional cost, or is the fee for that already included in the costs and will be borne by the municipality?
I'd have to check with how Jeff had organize that, but yeah.
Yeah, just because as I was reading through that part wasn't made clear, so I just would like to see that made clear, whichever way it was. My other question was regarding, part 5, burials, 5.12. It had a timeline in there. The no burial of cremated remains on a designated cremation lot, in which an existing monument is erected between November 1st and April 30th. Is that just due to the
Conditions.
cold weather to potentially harm the existing monument? Okay. And then this, the monument 6.13.4, just engraving, and this is regarding, I realize that the space is limited and there has to be a maximum number of characters. What if someone's last name has more than 11 letters? Like, do they have the option to reduce the size on that? And I'm only asking this because I specifically remember I went to high school with 2 different girls that had 14 letters, and they're like, when you're 12, it's funny. Anyways, so I'm just thinking, that is a thing. So they have an option to work around that, so the family can actually put their proper name on there.
Yeah, we can include maybe a higher space count there for those letters, but
Okay. Or just at least let them know that, there are options for that, because like Councillor Dennis said, people aren't reading this bylaw for fun one day. They're reading this when they need to, and there's a lot going on. So I just want to make sure it's just very, very, very clear. And then part 8, general provisions 8.1. Any group or society desiring to hold a memorial service as a ceremony shall give the town at least 10 days notice in writing. Is that, when it says memorial service, does that include funerals?
no.
Or is that an
group,
additional?
Group kind of service. And it was one that we contemplated keeping in there. There are a couple that we've looked through that had that still in there, and we're like, nah. So we could also remove that potentially.
Okay, just because when I read through this, I thought, well, not everyone always has specifically 10 days before an actual funeral, so I wasn't sure about that timeline. That was, I believe those were all my questions. And then just one other thought, and I don't know if this is something that would be appropriate for the town to include, or if it would be, I guess it's more of a funeral home, funeral director thing. But some sort of schedule just showing and not examples for the sake of having examples, but examples to differentiate, like photos. This is what a marker looks like. This is what a monument looks like. Again, just to give people, just make everything really, really clear, because you don't want to be confusing them additionally at that time.
And sorry, we did have some basic drawings in our previous bylaw, which I didn't include, but yeah, we could even get some more detailed kind of illustrations.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks. And not photos of existing ones that are in there, but just some things so that people have a really good idea. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Dennis.
For your question on the grave liner, the funeral home knows all the bylaws with the cemeteries. So they would sell you a casket or the liner to do the casket at the time of the service. That wouldn't go through the town at all.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? See none. We do have an administrative recommendation. Somebody care to make that motion? Councillor Coulter?
I move that the Standing Committee of Council consider the following motion. Standing Committee of Council recommends that council that cemetery bylaw to be brought forth to a future regular council meeting for consideration with amendments.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on that motion? I just have one. Do we need to stipulate what amendments we might want to see?
I think that we've
We covered it.
discussed, I think
Okay.
I was writing down as we were.
Okay, thank you. So all those in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you. And that brings us to the end of our public meeting. So thank you for joining us. And we'll take 5 minutes or so. I get a motion to, oh no, I don't. I'll adjourn this at
No, recess,
8:25.
Not adjourned.
recess.
I'll recess at 8:25, I'm sorry.